In this video, I'll present LeQture, your all-in-one learning powerhouse. It's everything you need and nothing you don't. So let's get straight into it. Suppose I'm watching this lecture recording and I don't understand what this graph means, so I would pause the lecture, I would open the tool, and I would simply ask, what does this graph show? I wouldn't have to provide any additional context, like what graph I'm talking about, because it can see the slide I'm on, as well as what the lecturer is saying around the current slide. So it would have all the necessary context it needs to answer the question. Now we can see it answers the question, and it also provides a timestamp in the lecture recording where this topic was discussed, right here, here, and here. This is to combat hallucination, so you can cross-verify any information it gives. Now you can also notice the answer is pretty concise, and this is because if you go to settings, you can notice the default answer type is set to concise. If you prefer a more detailed answer, you can choose that, or if you want a custom type of answer like only bullet points, you can also have that option. Yep. Now I will present the quiz feature. So here I am on the first question, and this is a fill in a blank question. So the correct answer is space, but for this demo, I will make a typo and I will add some unnecessary text. Let's see what happens. Next question. This is a drag and drop question. Now, before moving on, I'd like to show you what happens when you are stuck on a question. So we have hints, and suppose I decide to use one. If you read the hint, you'll notice that instead of it being a generic clue, it's designed to be relevant to the lecture and also direct you to the source material. In this case, slide 4 and the lecture timestamp, 15 minutes and 17 seconds. So let's continue. Now I can show a demo of this. You can drag your selection into the correct area, like so. Next question. This is a multiple choice question with one correct option. A true and false question. In this question, you have to match the statements with the correct option. This is a multiple choice question with multiple correct answers, so you can make many selections. In this question, you have to rearrange the steps in the correct order, like so. In this question, you are given a step-by-step solution to a problem, and you have to identify the incorrect step. So suppose I think step 2 is incorrect. This is a debate style question. Two people present different claims about the same topic. You not only have to identify the right person, which is only worth 25% of the marks, but also explain your reasoning, which I believe is more important. So for this demo, let me write person B is correct, but I won't provide a sensible reason. Their answer looks correct. Let's see what happens. And the last question is a mixed fill in the blank question. You're given a paragraph with multiple blanks to fill in. These can be in form of a drop-down or typing your answer in. And now we can submit the quiz. And the reason this is not automatic is because you can see the first question was marked correct even though we had made typos. And this is because the script checks for logical equivalence rather than doing a string comparison, because in real life people can make typos. There can be synonyms for words, and especially if you're doing a math quiz, there are many ways to represent your answer. So this is why this was an important feature to implement. Now we can go to the debate question. So you can see we only got 25% of the mark, and this is because we identified the right person, but we did not provide a sensible reasoning. And yep, for all questions, you have a side-by-side comparison with the right answer and with your answer. And yep. Now I will show the flashcard feature. So here I have the flashcards ready, and this could be a useful tool to revise maybe before your exams. So here, this is the question, and if you click on it, you can flip it to see the answer. Pretty straightforward. You can navigate with your arrow keys, or you can also press enter to flip the cards. Pretty straightforward so far. Now we scroll down. We have three features. Shuffle, which is pretty self-explanatory. Open and overleaf. This converts the flashcards into latex and opens it in overleaf so you can save them for later use. And the main feature, test me. Before showing this feature, let me go back to the first flashcard. Okay, so let's vaguely memorize what it says. What are the two primary ... okay? And the answer is the number of comparisons, the number of basic steps, okay? Now let's use the test me mode. Okay, now we have the same question. What are the two primary cost models? But if you look at the options, they are not the same as the answer we just looked at. And this is because I believe when you practice with flashcards, you might subconsciously memorize the answer and maybe start forgetting the meaning of the answer, the knowledge. So in this test, you're forced to read and understand what the options are, which tests your understanding rather than just your memory. And you have these, you can click on the one you think is right, and you get instant feedback, and you can do the same for all the flashcards. Yep. Now I will show the checklist feature. So here we have our checklist items generated based on the lecture material. So we can interact with it, we can cross items out as we go. Now suppose I don't recognize this item right here. I forgot where it was discussed, or I want to revisit it and I don't want to look through all the material and find where it was discussed. So I can click on the question mark and it gives me the exact slides as well as the exact timestamp this topic was discussed at. This way I can easily go back and revisit the content. At the bottom you have an option to open the checklist in overleaf again if you want to save it. And yeah, that's it for the checklist. Now I will show the summary feature. So this will be done in two parts. First I will show the latex implementation and then the HTML one, and then I will briefly explain the differences. So let's proceed with latex. Now you can see we can customize our summary. Suppose I want to add additional worked examples and a checklist at the end. We can add custom instructions if we want, and the main feature, you can add images from the lecture slides. So let's click generate. Now the implementation of adding images from the lecture slides is pretty complex, so I won't explain it here, but I have a report with a detailed explanation and why it does not exist in most existing solutions. So I'll just show you a few existing solutions and their AI generated summaries. So as you can see, most of these are pretty generic. They just have plain text, maybe with a bit of formatting. And because images could be really important in comprehension, I did find a way to implement them in both HTML and LaTeX. You can read the report. It is just a heads up. The explanation for this is gonna be around 8 pages long. Yeah, I'll speed this up. Okay, now we have our summary generated. So we can open an overleaf to open the summary directly. And there we go, we have our summary. It is visually engaging and has images from the lecture slides. And it is hard to imagine a summary about binary trees without a single image. So I believe this is really helpful. And here's our checklist at the end. And you can save it as a PDF. Now some additional features to talk about. You can repair the latex in case the LLM has a syntax error or anything. You can easily repair it in one click. This extracted using object detection, use machine learning instead. To understand this, you have to read the report, the 8 pages regarding the image implementation. The image size, you can also adjust the image size. So I can make them smaller, really small. Let me open it to show you. Normally, you wouldn't have to do this because the script automatically resizes the images, taking into account the target is a A4 paper, but I have still included this in case you need it for accessibility, maybe you need larger images, or any other reason. The option is still open. Now I will show the HTML implementation. So as the generation process is largely similar, we can skip over it. So here's my summary. You can notice that the layout is identical to the latex one, and this is because I recreated the same theme to ensure consistency. Now we will look at the difference in the features. So suppose I have a question. I can select the text and I can click clarify and I can ask my question. And it's gonna answer in a really concise manner. There we go. We can drag this around and we can close it. The next feature is text to speech. You can select any text you want to listen to and click speak. This is an accessibility feature that can be especially helpful for people with reading difficulties.
The first step is to conceptually extend our tree by replacing all null pointers with special.
We have audio controls down here, and let's scroll down. You can generate the audio for the entire summary at once if you prefer that, and you can open it in a new tab if you want to read it in an A4 format. Another feature to note is that you can also resize the panel if you find that beneficial. And yep. Now I will discuss the settings. So the first setting is answer type, and we have previously discussed this. The next setting is slide context, and to put it simply, it groups relevant context together like related questions, so our context size doesn't accumulate unnecessarily and cause hallucinations. How this works is a bit complicated, so this is the second feature I discussed in my paper, and I believe it was around 5 pages long. The next setting is timestamp linked citations, and this is pretty self-explanatory. It instructs the LLM to include timestamps from the lecture recording in its responses, so you can cross-verify any information and detect hallucination. Next, we have themes. So we have a light mode, a dark mode, and the default theme. And the next two settings are advanced. So the first of them is AI marking. This is basically what we looked at in the quiz. Questions with text-based inputs are marked based on their logical equivalence rather than simple string comparison, since people are unlikely to type the exact expected string in many cases. And the next is prefer object detection. We also briefly talked about this before. So images from PDFs can be extracted in 2 ways, and you can configure it to always use the machine learning method by turning it off. And the machine learning method is more expensive and it's slower, but it covers more cases. So roughly, I believe object detection covers around 70 to 80% of the cases, while machine learning covers around 95%. There are more details about this in my paper, if you can read that if you're interested. Now we will talk about the accessibility. So the first is increased font size, so you can increase the font size, pretty simple. You can turn off panel translucency, like so. You can reduce motion. This will freeze all animations. For example, if we send a message right now, test, the animations are paused. Same goes for when you generate quizzes or anything else. It pauses all the animations. High contrast mode. This increases the contrast, basically a completely different theme, like so. Colorblind mode. This instructs the LLM to not use color descriptions when describing things. Like for example on the slide, it's going to use a position or other characteristics to describe the information. And the last is keyboard navigation. This is fully functional as well. You can control everything with your keyboard. So we can use our keyboard like so. And yep. And now we can turn it off. There we go. And yeah, that's all for the settings, and we're almost done. And one more thing. Everything I just showed you, the in-lecture Q&A, timestamped citations, revision quizzes, flashcards, summaries, accessibility tools, everything has now been integrated directly into YouTube. Because students don't just learn from lecture recordings, they learn from everywhere. And if YouTube is where millions of students go to understand complex material, it only makes sense that lecture shouldn't stop at the classroom door. So now, when you're watching an educational video, lecture is right there beside you, providing context-aware explanations, clarifying key moments, and helping you retain what matters most. The classroom just got a lot bigger.